So again, today's topic is I'm embarrassed to tell my partner when I'm having an outbreak. I've had a lot of women in my DMs tell me that they don't know how to communicate this with their partners because they themselves, don't feel confident when they're having an outbreak. And this is totally understandable, right? Like, we don't feel sexy when we're in the middle of an outbreak or we feel one coming on. We get more stressed out. We're constantly like, oh my goodness, like, am I gonna pass this on? Like, what does this look like? It burns, it hurts, whatever it may be for you. And in that instance, it makes you want to like shut down and hide, especially from your partner, because you don't want them to think like it's a huge deal. And then they're going to be nervous about maybe being intimate with you and all of these things. And if you guys can relate to this, like put a 1 for yes or 2 for no in the comments. I'd love to know what that looks like for you. So like I said, we really start to, I did some sage before this and it's making my nose itch. We really start to feel as though we have to avoid telling our partner what is going on with us. So we start lying, we start avoiding contact with them, we might start shying away, we might get more frustrated, like if they're trying to touch us and we don't want to be touched and we just say like maybe we're on our period or we're not feeling well or wherever it may be. And in reality is that the more and more we let somebody else in, then the more our relationship with that person is going to grow. So if you're having fear of letting and being embarrassed of letting your partner, who is supposed to be the most supportive person in your life, beside yourself, right? I'm sorry, I'm like really having a hard time over here. And you are holding on to that identity when you're having an outbreak and you're not letting your partner in on this. Can you imagine how, your relationship isn't able to fully be like connected in a circle the way that it should because you're hiding this part of yourself? Just like when we hide any part of ourselves when we're in a relationship, like it's not natural for us to necessarily show every part of ourselves, but the more deep and intimate relationships with other people, the more those are the ones where you find yourself being the most vulnerable. So I want you to think about like what identity do you correlate with when you're having an outbreak. And that will be, maybe you are feeling dirty, or maybe you're feeling, like shame that somebody quote unquote gave this to you, or maybe you're feeling guilty because you don't know who gave it to you and you weren't more careful or whatever it may be. Figure out whatever that meaning that you're giving the outbreak, figure out what that is for you and write that down for yourself. And then ask yourself what emotions or feelings are coming up around this, and figure out like where the correlation between, okay, what I'm actually feeling when I'm having an outbreak, whether it be the guilt, the shame, and all of that, like what feelings on top of that and emotions am I putting behind this for myself? And then you can also describe like your reaction to your outbreak. Like, are you getting more and more agitated, like, oh, why didn't I better take care of myself this month or this week? Or, I felt that coming on and I didn't listen to that little tiny tingle for me in my butt cheeks. I'm going to say that, why did I have that extra glass of wine? Whatever it may be for yourself, ask yourself, what behaviors or reactions do I have to having an outbreak? And then you can also ask yourself, like, is this true? The reaction that you're giving to having your outbreak, is that an actual true reaction? Like, did that actual glass of wine, was that the thing that like tipped you over into having an outbreak? And then it's like you and your partner maybe getting in an argument because you don't want to be touched and, they're feeling horny, but you're too embarrassed to be like, well, I feel an outbreak coming on. And ask yourself, is this actually true? If it's not true, what other story can you create around it to make that more positive in your life? So for instance, like if I'm having an outbreak and I feel And I'm starting to feel more, let me think of a word. I'm sorry. Today has been like a day. And I'm feeling shame, right? I'm having an outbreak. I feel shame around having my outbreak. And I start to go down this downward spiral like, oh, why wasn't I more careful when I was having sex with people? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I ask if people got tested? Why this? Why that? I should have done this, should have done that. And all that shame is going on, right? What emotions am I actually feeling behind this? I'm actually, yes, am I feeling shame, but I'm also feeling like hurt inside for myself, not hurt based off of like what anybody else did to me. I'm feeling hurt inside for myself because I wasn't able to, trust myself in these moments or whatever it may be. And then from there, you ask yourself, okay, is this true? Like, do I have to be feeling this shame and this guilt and hurt? And the answer is no. You don't have to feel this way. You can choose to feel whatever way you want to feel about your diagnosis. And the more and more you're feeling embarrassed and shame and guilt and hurt and all of those things, the more difficult it's going to be for you to step into the woman that you're meant to be, because those aren't things that are your highest self, right? Like, your highest self doesn't feel that guilt for having herpes. She understands that like this happened for her for a reason, to learn to slow down, to know that like how many people in this world have it, like, let's be honest. So I just wanted to hop in here today to talk about this. Sorry if I seemed a little scatterbrained. I am a little scatterbrained today, and that's okay. But I definitely think it's so important for us to be super open with our partners and to, let them in, let them know, like, this is what it feels like, and not make it a big deal. Because the more and more we make it a big deal for other people, the more they're like, oh, like, it looks like we have the plague, because they're like, oh my goodness, like, I'm having a cold sore, or I'm having an outbreak down here, and this and that. You're like telling the other person, like, this is the reaction that you're gonna have when you, if you choose to sleep with me. And then like, they're gonna be like, well, I don't want to have those extra emotions on top of everything, rather than being like, okay, I'm having an outbreak right now, and we may not be able to do X, Y, or Z together, but we can still do all these other things that can make our relationship even stronger. Like, it's not all about the sex and the intimacy. And I think that a lot of us women feel like the man isn't going to necessarily or maybe if there's some, excuse me, lesbians in here, which is great too, we may feel like our partner isn't going to want to be, to do other things with us if we aren't putting ourselves out in a sexual way. I know there were times for me that I, had a hard time opening up besides sexually. Like, I could be I wouldn't say intimate. I could be like in a sexual relationship with someone, and I would quote unquote like hide the emotional part of that relationship. Was that a healthy thing to do? Of course not, but I'm just rambling now. So that's all I have for you guys today. Again, if you're just hopping on, I scratched myself here, so let's have a good laugh about it. Talk to you guys later.